Okay, here's our two carbies. Claimed to be off-road use only, key in the carburetor, made in Japan, genuine part. Claimed to be nothing, just a copy. An OK goes under half a dozen different names on eBay. I think they're $40 or something like that. But basically the same design. So let's see, maybe this is real, and maybe and this is just a copy of it. If that's the case, then the parts should be totally interchangeable, and I can just pick and choose as I want and develop the carburetor as I want. So that's the theory. Now, body-wise, when I had a look at them, they're similar. They look similar to each other. See that PWK on the bottom, one's a 26, one's a 28. See, that's thicker in there, thinner in there. That's right, I wanted that differences. But they're very similar on the outside looking at them. So I thought, as you're looking on eBay, that should be okay. So I bought this one. The reason why I bought this one in the first place is because I know nothing about nitrous, but I knew that probably when the nitrous hits, I've got to be feeding it fuel. So this kind of a power jet, I normally only have played with on 2 strokes. So being on a 4-stroke carburetor, it's kind of strange to me. And my experience of playing and experimenting with carbies ended, 15 years ago. So things have moved on. Maybe it's different. So, and I didn't mind the idea of being able to see the fuel level and stuff like that, and maybe how fast it drained and then refilled itself, and the power jet. It just, it had a few features I liked, and just little things like this. See, that it's got the clips on there, like these little clips that go onto here to hold the cables on tight. This one doesn't. It didn't come with the clips, and see how that turns easily like that. It's just, the thing is half off. It wants to get an air leak. Whereas this one over here with those clips on there, it's tight. It's not going to come off. So immediately on the outside, this looks like a better carburetor. I'm no great fan of the blue plastic and blue and that sort of stuff. I prefer it not to be there, but nicely polished and just a finish as it comes. So yeah, maybe this is the genuine thing. So let's pull it apart and have a look. So I'll just start somewhere. This is just your normal slide thing there. It comes with as usual, they normally have a wash on the end there, so you're not digging the spring straight into the aluminium body. That comes off like that. Nothing special. Looks okay. What does the one look like off the cheaper carburetor? It's basically the same. So I would say that these two, not quite the same, but similar in length and stuff like that. I'd say these two are interchangeable. So I can go with this just raw copper brass finish, or I can go with that. So I'm happy with that. So moving on. Up the top up here. Oh, before I go too much further in taking this off, I do like an Allen key bolt on there, because it just makes life much easier with a Phillips head screwdriver. Unfortunately, the other one comes with these Phillips head screws. So I do like the fact that this is Allen key, and it's my much preferred system. And I would tend to change any carburetors I have over to Allen keys, just because it's just better. And here we go, and spring. First look is this. We have a gasket, paper gasket, no O-ring or anything like that. And I look at the other one, paper gasket, very similar looking. Looks interchangeable to me, even the gaskets. Don't like that it doesn't have any goop on there, because that could possibly leak, but it's not a big deal. So I don't mind that, and this is just your standard adjuster, and the other standard adjuster has a different colour nut on there, but it's basically the same, interchangeable. So okay with that. Next one, the spring. Just take the slide out. The spring. It's rounded shaped and flat shaped. Only goes in one way, theoretically. And that blocks off with a the cable will go down there. See the cable will go down there? And it'll go into that side there, and then this plastic goes down over it, locks it off, stops it from coming out. Is it the same as the other one? Having looked at it, yeah, one's pulled a bit longer, but that doesn't mean anything. They're both the same thickness. They look the same to me. So no big deal. Interchangeable. The needle. The needle to me. Oh, I said let's go with this slide here first. The other slide. Yeah, that looks the same. They feel the same weight. Look the same there. Only difference is this has the good one doesn't really, see it's the same height all the way across there, whereas this one has a bit of a drop down there, and just the way it's been machined, I can't actually tell you why they would do that. I don't think it's going to make any difference, but interchangeable at any rate. Now the needle comes in a middle clip position, but the needle is a standard kind of, that's where it would normally be, then wham, you know, wham. It looks just a progressive running down to a tip. And the other needle is identical. So we've got two identical needles, so they'd be interchangeable. So the next thing I'm going to look for is what number is it? And it doesn't have a number on there. Normally needles would have a number, so no number, but I'll get you my little needle file. Where is that? Here's my little collection of needles I have, because you never know what you're going to need. All the needles are different, and as you can see, they all have different tapers. Like this one's quite even for a while, then it tapers off quite quickly. This one's quite fat, like it doesn't taper off too much. It's all to do with the way it's going to meter the fuel. Now all of them, being proper Japanese ones, all of them have numbers on them. And the ones we've gotten from, those ones don't have numbers. So that, I am straight away now suspicious that those are both cheap copies. The good stuff is numbered. So, moving on. What else we got here? We have, well, I'll get to the power jet later. We've got the choke. Just get that off. That's pretty standard stuff with the choke. When you pull it on, you pull it up like this. There's a passage that runs from there. The air goes in there. Remember the slide is down, so the motor's sucking, so it pulls really hard on that hole, which is mostly closed off. But as soon as you pull the choke up, the only air the motor's really getting, because the slide is down, it's going to be through that hole, and it just draws fuel up and in and out, and it's metered, but it's a big chunk of fuel compared to what's got to come out of that, and therefore you get extra rich mixture when you pull the choke on. What do they look like? They look basically the same. I'd say totally interchangeable. I prefer the black look. It's just more what I'm used to, and so interchangeable as far as I can tell. Next, now that power jet's the reason why I bought this carburetor, so let's have a look at that. Just give me a second to get that off. I'll just take that off with that, move that up there, pull this off. Okay, now I'm not a big fan of two screws on the bottom, but both do that. You know, just one screw there, one screw there. I've had plenty of these things leak, and that's with being 4 screws and O-rings, so 2 screws. I'm dubious. Yeah, that's a thick bit of aluminium plate, and that when it pulls, it'll pull reasonably evenly, but not as good as having another screw there, another screw there. If it leaks, it wouldn't surprise me. It just means I've got to seal it differently, and I can just use that flange gasket stuff, and that'll seal it. I'll just take that off. This does have some features I do like, and have some features I don't like about this. Right, that comes off. the screw. Now the other one is a more conventional style. It's just a regular float bowl. It fits in there. Now notice how this one, yeah, it has a little jet there. That's for the is that the choke or the low speed? Anyway, there's a jet there. That there, the fuel goes in, and up there for the power jet. This one here is exactly the same there. It has, now that has a tube there which is a breather, breather to the float bowl, and that's just wasted out of there. The idea is that if the float gets too high or gets stuck, fuel can dribble out of there and not go into your motor. This one doesn't have one at all. A little bit odd, not that the floats ever get stuck that much, but odd. And their heights are slightly different too. There's going to be more fuel sitting in this one available than in this one, but size-wise, fitting-wise, they're both identical. So in that respect, they're interchangeable. This one has a feature I do like much more, and that is the screw on the bottom here. And the idea of that is that I can, sometimes you just, carburetor's a bit awkward to get to, a bit hard to change the jets. You can get to that and change the jets, the main jets, easy enough. So I do prefer this style of carburetor, but I do like the see-through. When I get the bike registered, I reckon I'll have this one on there. So, okay, moving on. That goes down there. The hole for taking the fuel to the power jet is that height there, and I'm a little bit concerned that when the float bowl's on there, it'll just be above that. And if that's the case, it may be sucking half air as you're vibrating or whatever, half air, half fuel. I really would like it if that went straight in down lower. So I will re-drill that down to here, so just to make a little bit more guarantee that fuel gets in there. This one is identical. It's got a hole down there, which is the height of that hole, probably a little bit lower than the other one. So see, that goes up there, and that one's just a little bit lower. So this one, less chance of sucking a bit of air. Because when I presume, when I'm going to be blowing in the nitrous, I'm going to be sucking fuel here. I don't want half fuel, half air. I want solid fuel. So a little bit dubious about that. May have to make a little alteration to that design, Dremel it down or re-drill it if I can get a drill angle from lower and go in that way, I might be better. Also, I did notice, can you see that little bit of white fuzz in there? It's got plastic in there from when this was drilled. It hasn't even been cleaned out properly, so this is one reason why you've got to pull your carbies apart. Plus, see the dirt in the bottom there? It's just not even clean. And the other one's not better. You just got to make sure you clean these things before you start using them. So that's over there. The float looks normal to me. Nothing special. That's about that height. That looks normal. When the fuel's coming in, it's down a bit like this, and then it closes itself off. There's the little valve for the float right there. That tongue there can be bent, so I can make that normally sit up here a bit further, and I can play around with it depending on what, if I have a fueling starting issue. This looks pretty normal and is identical to the other one. There's nothing different between those. And that comes off. Whoops, and that falls down, which is normal. So that just sits on the end of that there. That just sits on the end there. It's not held in anyway. It's just the position that holds it into place. By the way, these two, very, very important parts. And they look slightly different. They look slightly different at different times, but these, sometimes they have rubber on there, they're just different, but they look identical. I can't see a real difference between the two. So, interchangeable, but I think I'll go with that one. Looks a bit better. The floats themselves, apart from different colour, they have some slight differences. Like this one has some dots there, some when it's made, but apart from that I can't really see. Yeah, it's got a few different symbols on there. Well, this one has no symbols, so someone's trying to pretend this is good. Interchangeable. I'd probably go with the black one. It just the colour of it. This one's more chromy, nickel plated. This one's a more dull. I should put a magnet on that and see what it feels like. This one's definitely steel. It could be stainless. I don't know, but I'll go with that one. Interchangeable. Back to this again. Now, where are we up to? Main jet. Emulsion tube. Emulsion tube is basically fed from this one. Don't worry about that line across there. It's fed from there. Air goes in there, straight through there, into the emulsion tube, and as it gets sucked this way, the carburetor sits that way, as the fuel gets sucked up, it mixes with that air that comes in there and makes it more of a froth, as opposed to neat fuel squirting in there. And I've said it before, froth goes bang, or vapour goes bang, straight out fuel just does not much at all. Oops, now the jet. Because this is a different system and it has a longer float bowl, the jet is slightly, it has this style of jet, where the other emulsion tube, this is the other emulsion tube, and the jet that goes with it, and the jet goes with it is a round one. That's okay. I've plenty of jets. From the good old days, and different both styles. So, but normally I think they're different screw size, but these two are identical screw size. So notice the holes up there. 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, 4. This is that one. 4 means that when the fuel gets this way around, when the fuel gets sucked up, their jet size gets fuel sucked up there, the more holes is going to mean more frothing, more turning to vapour. The less holes is going to be more neat fuel. Very minor difference, but it could make a difference in the tuning, so I'm aware of it and I've got options to change it. Other than that, I've screwed them both in. They are slightly different because one has a longer float bowl, bigger float bowl, but they are interchangeable. So I'm knowing that I'll probably go with the one with the more frothing, and then I can always make it more neat here, which would tend to be like make it slightly richer. Back to this again. So the main jet's out. That's where it gets metered the fuel from. Pilot jet. Low speed jet. Right, it comes out. It is absolutely identical to the other one, even exactly the same numbers. Exactly the same numbers. What's that? A 38 and a 38. So completely interchangeable. I have many. Let's go back to here again. I have many of these, and all different sizes, so I'll be able to get that low speed tuned up nicely, because even though they're both 38, remember they're both different thicknesses in here. This is the thinner one, the other one's thicker, smaller bore. That's going to suck very differently, and sucking very differently means you need different fuel, yet they're both the same size jet, so I'm suspicious that's not going to work quite right. So let's go anyway. Here is the mixer screw for that. So I'll just wind this out. Just wound that out. Now that looks, whoops, that looks completely normal to me. O-ring, spring onto there, sometimes a washer, but that's quite a flat surface on there. So it looks completely normal to me. I took the one out of the other one, and that is over here, and this one has no O-ring to it. So that means it's possible that air can suck in here and go into the thing there. Now it's no big deal how if it sucks air, it's not really going to make much difference, but it could be dirty air from outside, whereas air with an O-ring there, the only air it can suck is going to be clean air through the air filter system. So it's not going to make its function much different, but I don't like it because it can It's just not sealed. It can let outside air pass through there, which is not really going to change what it does down here, but it can let dust into the carburetor system. And you know, one scratch up the bore is one too many. Right, now next thing is this power jet, and this is the reason why I bought this carburetor. It's for that power jet. So what I'm expecting here with this on here, normally they would just have a cap and a jet inside there. So what I'm expecting is great things from this. I'm thinking, gee, if that's got a spring on there, this is probably adjustable. Woohoo! You know, I've never had an adjustable one like that. Normally they just a jet and you go from one side to another. So yes, that looks like it's adjustable. See the taper on there? Looks promising. I've got some sort of adjustable system, and here I can screw it up, more fuel, less fuel. Very nice, I do like it. The other one didn't have it. That just has a cap. See that screw cap? No holes, it just had a cap on there. So whatever fuel's going in, it's got to be dealt with inside there. And that's largely where it ended. It had inside there was this little jet here. It's a standard little jet. Now when I take this one apart, I look in there. Oh yeah, that looks like it's got a jet in there. Let's have a look at that. Screws out, and out it comes. Now this one, remember that was in there. The idea is that fuel goes past here when you're full throttle. The fuel goes past here and draws fuel from the float bowl and is jetted to a certain size. That's the idea. That's why they have it there like that. Now this one, when you look them up on eBay and you buy them, they just have that hole there. Now I can't see that working, and I even contacted the seller and showed him a picture of this one with that nozzle there and said, do you have any like that? He never replied, so obviously not. That all I can see they're doing is just having some kind of a shit smear going down there and really not working at all. Don't like that design at all. So but that jet, wherever it went, that jet does screw into there. Although that's a little bit small, I have to drill it out slightly. I will get it in there. I can transfer this over to this one, if that's the way I'm going. But that's not all my problems. All my problems are, let's get closer on this. That's a jet number, right? See that tiny little hole down the bottom down there? This is ultimately the size that is, regardless of what jet you put in there or what size number that is. That's the hole size. And that is not where I'm used to them being. Mostly I see them on the side here, just a hole on the side, that blocked off there. So when the fuel goes around it, the vacuum it creates here on the downside of it is what draws the fuel through. Where here it's just going across, it's not as much of a Venturi effect, and I can't see this working too well. If I was going to use it, yeah, that's a small hole, but I would drill a hole in the side there with one of my number drills, which I can any size I want. There's some really fine ones in there. I would drill a little hole in the side there and solder that off or something, so the fuel, as the air goes past, draws much harder. I'm not so happy with that design, and I'm going to do a bit of research if that actually works out well like that. But that's not the problem. The problem is, remember this thing, how I said, ooh, you know, that's going to be adjustable. Well, what's the point of having that thing there that goes into there? Whoops, where am I? I'm hard to see when I'm behind the screen. Waste of time that going in there like that when it can just leak from the sides. It's not going to work that well. But it doesn't matter. If I screw this out, that is the adjusting. That is the ultimate as much as it can draw, which is next to nothing. Where this has the potential, if that seals well, to, you know, draw a lot. So there's some modifications may need to be happening down the road there, because that is just not good enough for what I'm after. Right, so where are we up to now? That's out. This thing here, they generally just pop out. That is not the right way to do it, but I've got the job done. Where would it go? Here we go. That is there, it goes this way, the slot needle goes that way. It looks very much like a 4-stroke one to me. 2-strokes normally have a bit higher cups, but that's for me knowing olden times. Maybe they changed it now, but that looks like a 4-stroke one to me. They do advertise it being 2-stroke and 4-stroke. Both are identical. Nothing special, you know. Normally you'd see a 2-stroke would be a little bit down the side, because 2-strokes are a little bit more hungry for fuel, and then you get more Venturi effect if that's going past, and it just sucks harder. Where this one's more sipping, but that's your classic 4-stroke. Right, that's just a brass sitting for your needle seat there to go into. That looks okay. This one here is for your choke system. It is the choke. What happens is here is, remember I said that that goes up. Well, there's your air line going in, and it goes straight through to there. And the choke, the plunger, on the bottom of the plunger, is that rubber seal there is pushing hard against the bottom there. So what happens is when you pull that up, it lets the air go through, and it wants to suck fuel. So you follow that down. They've drilled down that hole down there. They've drilled to there. Then they've drilled, see that? They've drilled through to there, blocked it off. So now you have a hole running down through to here. And they've drilled up from this way and shoved that hole stick in there. And then that draws the fuel up, 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 out. And this has a few little holes in the side, so it's going to bubble a little bit as it draws. No big deal. Also, I did notice something strange. There is another hole right there running through to there, but it's just because this is enclosed, it's just an equalizer so that the air pressure goes in there, so it doesn't, you know, it doesn't want to hold air and not be level with the fuel level. So that's all that's going on there. The next thing you'd want to do, just to check it, is to pull this off. Sometimes they do this, sort of, they put these parts on there, bolted on there when it's too hard to cast all in one go, and you've got some complicated casting if you're casting this way and casting that way, so they just make these things separate and bolt them in. But this one's got that sort of Torx type thing that's got the lump in the middle, so that your average Joe Blow can't get in there and mess with it, a security one. So, but this one didn't. This one just had regular Phillips heads, so I could pull this apart just to see how it works. And that's what it looks like. Both, as far as I can tell, are identical. So I'm happy to pull one apart, at least to see what the channels are doing. And there should be one after. Let's have a look here. You've got the main channel, see that hole goes through. The main channel goes straight through to here, and it's the one I talked to before that goes straight into there. You can see the light and bubbles up the emulsion tube that then sucks that into the motor. So the air comes in here, fuel gets sucked up here. Because that's got air bubbles in it, it gets mixtured, and then out it goes down the carburetor. So all normal. This one here does not feed that one. This one here is the other one. This one here is this one. Now you can see it blocked off there. The reason why it's blocked off there is because they've drilled down this way, straight past there, and they've drilled in this way, but then blocked off this. So any air has to go down this tube here, round the corner and down. And that's how this thing on the side here is metered, because it goes in there, and as you pull it out, it lets more air in, less air in, more air in, less air in. So that's basically how that. So you can adjust the amount of air you have travelling down there. And there we go, we've got the two holes. So what it's doing, the one that goes directly into the main jet is down that one. This one is the adjustable air one for the, you know, for the low speed. It comes in this way. And there we go. It comes in this way, and it's then drilled up this way. And then blocked off. And then drill down this way, so the air comes in, up, and then with this pilot jet, which is this one, see it's got the holes, it gets emulsified as well, so the air that's coming in there goes into here, fuel gets sucked up from the bottom of the carby, fuel comes up here, mixed with air, froths it a bit, and then gets sucked into the motor. So you've got, that's how that's fed. And generally you have two holes, see that one there, and this one here. That works at one speed, that works at another speed, but they're both for the low speed circuits. They just kick in at different times. So that looks all normal to me. Just make sure it's clean, and I'll do that. O-ring gasket, a little bit of goop on there, and that'll work. That'll seal off just nicely. So I'm happy with these two carburetors. I can interchange parts as far as I can tell. Oh, one last thing. When I got the cheap one, it has all these on there, you know, air there, air there, air there, air there, which is theoretically for making the float bowl get atmospheric pressure to it. So just, you know, the level is the level, it's not anything sucking from here. But geez, oh, that's all interesting, you know, I'm going to have cables going everywhere, look all specky. So I got on there and I sucked on this one, nothing. And I sucked on this one, nothing, it's blocked off. Okay, that's supposed to go down into the carburetor here for nothing. That's a screw hole for that other thing. There is nothing over here. It's just there for looks. It does absolutely nothing. This other carburetor doesn't have it. So purely on the really cheap one, purely cosmetic, has absolutely no function. Nothing. I come around to here. Right, there's the one on the opposite side. Yep. They suck through, and you go underneath here. There's the hole that goes to. That is the atmosphere. Slight problem is if your motorbike falls on this side and is laying on its side, fair enough. Any fuel coming out of the gas tank will go in and drain out the side, and it won't go into your motor. But your motor falls on this side, it'll fill the float bowl up, run into your motor, and cause you little flooding issues. But this one, on the other hand, the better one. I'm going to say better, but I don't believe it to be genuine. Doesn't bother having it there, but it does have the hole there. So, and it doesn't bother with that, you know, tricky, smart-looking stuff there. It just has one hole. So all up, I would say that this genuine made in Japan is a load of rubbish. I bought it off Alliexpress, with pretty well what you expect, but it is a better version than the really cheap one. But I still don't think it's genuine. But good enough, and most of the parts between the two are interchangeable. And I'll get back to the carburetor. I'm not talking about NOS yet, because that's a whole different deal altogether.